Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio by our technical producer, Jonathan Voico.
Hello, everybody.
Writer, director, producer, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett.
Hello there. It's surprise day.
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. And here's how our show's going to go. We're going to talk about our favorite things in the world. Movies and movie news, TV and streaming and all that good stuff. And we are glad you are here to join us in all that goodness. And we got a lot of goodness to get to, so we're just going to jump right into it today. And we're going to start off with this. You know, I had heard of the whole Backrooms phenomenon, but I didn't really watch any of the stuff before. And then the first trailer for Backrooms came out with the guy that I think is the most underappreciated, most underrecognized, one of the best actors in the business today, Chiwetel Ejiofor.
With the coolest name.
Oh, with a very cool name. That, I'm not going to lie, it took me a few weeks to figure out how to properly pronounce years ago, after he was in Serenity. So, saw the trailer for it. I'm like, damn, this looks good. So I went back and watched the other Backroom stuff. Some of it was kind of whatever, but some of it was really, really good and really interesting. Well, a lot of people got excited about it. And now, according to this story, it looks like it may end up being possibly the biggest opening weekend for any A24 movie ever, as they're projecting this thing will come in anywhere between $26 to $32 million for its opening weekend. Now, if you want to put that into context, Civil War, not to be confused with Captain America Civil
Right.
War, it opened to 25.7 million. Marty Supreme at 17.4. The Drama, which I just hated. Man, I wanted to like that movie because I love everybody in it, but oh, I hated that movie. Anyway, opened to 14.3. Hereditary, which was awesome. Should have won somebody an Academy Award. Opened up with 13.5, and The Materialist, which I also hated, ended up being at $11.3 million. So if this thing comes in, if Backrooms comes in anywhere over the floor of what they're saying is its opening weekend, it will end up being the biggest opening ever for an A24 film. And when you think about how popular A24 is becoming, like it was just a few years ago, Rob, that you mentioned A24 and there was a lot of people still didn't know what we were talking about. But now people who watch shows like this, you say A24 and now everybody knows what we're talking about, get kind of excited. And yeah, they put out some crap here and there, but they also put out some of the most, edge pushing, original kind of films out there. And they're a really, really exciting studio. So to see that, now correct me if I'm wrong, is the new Obsession not an A24
It's
film?
Blumhouse.
It's Blumhouse. And it wasn't it wasn't done with A24.
No.
Okay. I didn't know that for sure, but
I don't think so.
This is exciting news for them. And again, really big for them when you look at this studio that's becoming really, really more and more respected, more and more recognized, saying this could be the biggest one they've had. I think that's pretty impressive. Anyway, Rob, you see these opening weekend numbers. Where's your expectation level like for the movie itself? And do you think it can come in as the biggest opening weekend for an A24 movie ever?
I do. And, I've been saying that there is a movement, we've been talking about this, of young, exciting young filmmakers who have gotten their start working in the social media space. And the whole creepypasta Backrooms business is an example of that. And our director just turned 20 for this movie. The same thing that Markiplier did for his film Iron Lung. He was a streamer and he had millions of subscribers, tens of millions of subscribers, and then invested in himself and made Iron Lung. And Iron Lung has exceeded $50 million globally. And he was able to turn his longtime YouTube audience and other Twitch and TikTok into that audience. Well, the guys that have been making Backrooms is kind of an open source in that other people were invited to come in, and which is a really brilliant idea. And the whole mythology has been going on for quite some time. I want to say, did it start in 2014? You know,
It's been around for a while.
It's been around for a while, and
the mythology of it has been around, I think, even longer than that.
Absolutely. So it's a really interesting phenomenon, the fact that it's an open source mythology, but you do have one kid who kind of started it, and he's directing this movie. He's been mentored by some people. Oz Perkins, I believe, was somebody that came in and showed him, gave him some ideas. I'm excited by this because the Philippou brothers, who made Talk to Me and Bring Her Back, also got that start. And we're seeing a lot of these really exciting filmmakers break out this way. And I love this liminal space thing, you know, where it's just like an empty room is the scariest thing ever. Like, why? And what, you're trapped in this weird dimension, and there's something about it. So it does not surprise me that this is a confluence of events, and it also does not surprise me that A24 is the purveyor of this, because look, you know, I think I first became aware that A24 was a thing. Like, it was not, it wasn't just a distributor, was when I saw Harmony Korine's Spring Breakers. And I want to say I saw Spring Breakers in the Dome, you know,
could have been.
Hollywood.
It was around that time.
Yeah, I think it was. And I'm like, what is this movie? You know, James
Which
Franco
ties in nicely to the next story we're going to talk
Yeah,
about.
but
I literally just quoted that movie to myself. I was like, why are you
because
so
I'm always
suspicious?
looking at all my, whenever I get something, I'm like, my shit, just like James Franco would
Why
say.
are you acting suspicious?
Yeah. I'm excited for this, and the answer, John, to your question in a long roundabout way is, I think yes, this movie's going to make a lot of money because it is an IP that hasn't been recognized as such by, say, the big studios, but A24 did, and they're going to win.
You know, I remember I ended up taking the film classes of Dove S.S. Simmons on the recommendation of Quentin Tarantino. And I remember, like, the biggest thing I took away from those classes with him, and I sat right with one of the stars of My Big Fat Greek Wedding, the guy who played her dad. I ended up sitting with him in those classes. But the most memorable thing is when he said, if you want to know how to make a movie, here's how you make a movie. Get a couple of friends together, point a camera at them, hit record, yell action, 2 hours later, stop the recording. There, you've made a movie. But one of the other things that really stood out to me that he taught in those classes, he said, you might want to start with horror. He said, you're going to find that a lot of filmmakers today, and this is true today as well, will start with horror. He goes, why? Because horror is the easiest genre to do. Now, before you get all mad at that, he said, in the same way that it's like poker is the easiest card game to play. You learn how to play really, really fast, but to master it will take your whole lifetime.
Yeah.
Right? And he's not wrong. Like in horror, you really don't have to be able to do it. You don't have to create interesting dialogue. You don't have to have deep characters. You don't have to have an interesting narrative. What you got to do, though, is be able to create this feeling. You got to be able to creep people out. He goes, that's why it's a great starting point. So to make horror is easy. To make great horror is very, very difficult. But I think that's one of the reasons why today I just keep hearing those words in my head when we see how many new directors are coming along, kind of breaking into the space via horror, because it's a great entry point.
Dude, I totally agree. And I think that there's another property. I don't know if it's been picked up but I think the next property, like Backrooms, is, here's another rabbit hole you can go down, is there is no anti-memetics division. There's a novel, there's short films.
You've talked about that.
Yeah, and I think I wouldn't surprise me if A24 has already made that deal, or Roy Lee's already made the deal to make there is no anti-memetics division film. But I'm excited, dude. I'm going.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? According to some tracking numbers right now, it looks like Backrooms may end up being the biggest opening weekend in A24's history. Whether it does or it doesn't, we'll find out soon. Do you think it will? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. Speaking of spring breakers. Selena Gomez, who I've met a couple of times, by the way, totally charming. Cate Blanchett and Michael Fassbender, according to this story in Variety, has signed up for the brutalist filmmaker Brady Corbett's new X-rated film that they're going to be doing. Now, I'll tell you why I find this interesting in a second. First, let's go through the story a bit here. It says Cate Blanchett and Selena Gomez are set to star in the brutalist director Brady Cobett's next film alongside Michael Fassbender. During a masterclass at Cannes, just goes on to say that Blanchett kind of confirmed that she's going to be doing it. Plot details of the still untitled film remain shrouded in secrecy, though Corbett has said in interviews that he was looking to make an X-rated feature set in the 1970s. The film spans from the 19th century to present day. It's just predominantly focused in the 1970s. The film is really, really genre-defying, he told The Hollywood Reporter. It's also reportedly being shot using very rare 8-perf 65mm cameras, which, I don't know. Some of these filmmakers just like to, they got this obsession with doing something quirky and weird, but you know what? More power to them if it helps them express their creativity. All right. So a couple of thoughts on this. First of all, it's very rare when you hear about a Hollywood production that even before they start shooting anything is outright saying, we're aiming for an X rating. This is going to be X rated. Because there are consequences to making something X-rated. A lot of theater chains will not carry an X-rated film. No law prohibits them from doing it. It's just something they don't do. We could go into the whole muck of it all, but I won't bore you with the details of it. I remember one time when I was still working at AMC, we had this little horror film coming out, and they did not submit it to the MPA for a rating. And generally speaking, most movie theater chains won't carry something if it doesn't submit for a rating and get a rating. It was unrated, but AMC decided to release it anyway. And that was kind of a big deal at the time. So saying you're going to make it X-rated, which limits your audience, which sounds like it's a movie that should have its audience limited anyway. Interesting. If it was going to come from a director, this is one of the directors that I would expect that it would be coming from. Hopefully it will not be a 7-hour thing.
He says it's 4.
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't believe anybody who's going to finance this movie will let him make it 4. Because no theaters will then play it. No theaters will play a 4-hour movie.
It'll be like Nymphomaniac, part 1 and part 2.
Yeah, break it into 2 films. There you go. Break it into 2 films. So here's the thing that I find really interesting, though. Although Selena Gomez, and you talk about Spring Breakers, right? Between her earlier career and, being in this delightful, charming, wonderful Only Murders in the Building show, which she is so good in. I think a move like this is what it reminds me of, Rob. Tell me if you agree. It reminds me of when Anne Hathaway did Havoc. Anne Hathaway, a lot of people will forget, prior to doing Havoc, she was the Disney princess. She was perceived, her whole kind of motif was that she was this, classy, sweet, innocent Disney princess because she played princesses multiple times, because of course she did. But once she did Havoc, it totally changed the perception of her. Not in a negative way, but in a bigger way. People suddenly were looking at Anne Hathaway as, oh, she doesn't just have to do these, she can do anything, which ultimately led her to, I'm not saying Havoc led her to winning an Academy Award, but it kind of opened the door for her career to go in whatever direction she wanted after that. Because Havoc had some very risque things, was her first nude scene and all that kind of stuff. But what it did was it opened the door to people being willing to look at her in ways other than she was already being preconceived. And I wonder if Selena Gomez, who doesn't quite have the princess image that Anne Hathaway had prior to Havoc, but I wonder if Selena Gomez is kind of looking at this and saying, an X-rated film by a guy whose movie just won a bunch of Academy Awards, this could be very door opening for me. And I think if that's her and her team's philosophy, I don't think they're wrong. Doesn't automatically mean it'll work. I mean, what's her name from Saved by the Bell did Showgirls. That it did not exactly open a bunch of doors afterwards, although she was in Any Given Sunday.
She was.
So I'll give her that.
But Elizabeth Berkley's my spirit animal. God bless her.
I just think this is a really interesting move, and I like the move. I really do. I think this is a good move for her. Anyway, Rob, you hear about this. Well, what do you think about the sounds of this project?
Well, I'm interested in Brady Corbett's work. Obviously, somebody brought up the idea that he was terrific in Greg Araki's movie Mysterious Skin, which is a wonderful, incredible film. It also has an incredible soundtrack. And Greg Araki's always been a boundary-pushing filmmaker. He made, of course, the great Teen Apocalypse trilogy that I have on Criterion Disc. But no, I can understand where he got his desire to push the envelope. But here's the thing. Like, if you're going to make an X-rated film, which I would assume means graphic sex or violence, but probably graphic sex. I don't know if anybody has done that effectively to make a narrative feature that has been able to incorporate sexuality that way in the modern age. I mean, I think back to a famous movie that I think is a terrific film. One of my favorite horror movies of the 70s is a movie called Don't Look Now that stars Julie Christie and Donald Sutherland. And it's directed by the great Nicholas Roeg. And they famously had sex for real in that movie. And you see it, and it's an incredible intimate scene, but it's not like pornographic. It doesn't stop like bow chicka bow bow. Look, they're having sex. No, it has a narrative.
That's
purpose.
The soundtrack of my life, by the way.
There you go.
Just throwing that out there.
but it works in a movie like that. I just wonder if it's even possible to do what he wants to do. If anybody could do it, he could probably do it. But I wish that they wouldn't say they're going to make an X. How do you say what movie you're going to make? I mean, obviously it's going to be simulated sex, but it's like saying you're making a cult film before you've made it. You know, I mean, it's. I would rather them. I think the premise is intriguing and the cast is great. I mean, Cate Blanchett, Michael Fassbender, and her. I mean,
and
great.
we just saw Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett work together, and it was really good.
It was really good. And then also Fassbender's been in the movie where he played the sex addict.
Yep.
Yeah.
That got him an Academy Award nomination, if I'm not mistaken.
He was just heartbreakingly searing great in that film. But oh my God, what a hard movie to watch. So I'm all for it. But, you know, the idea we're going to make it X-rated. Well, if the movie requires it, okay. I'd be interested to see what you do.
The Madaween in our live chat is saying, man, the CinemaCon presentation on this will be lit.
Yeah, I don't think we're getting a CinemaCon.
I don't think we're getting a big CinemaCon presentation on this one.
Yeah, and who's going to
It's
show
not going
it?
to be in Hall H. It's going to be in Hall O.
Hall X.
Although the idea of seeing the sex in 65 millimeter. All right.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? The director of The Brutalist is saying his next film is going to be kind of a time-spanning X-rated film, but he's got actors like Michael Fassbender, Cate Blanchett, and really interestingly, Selena Gomez, and I think this would be an interesting move for. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, we've got a number of big films coming out this summer, including a couple of big comic book ones, which include Spider-Man Brand New Day, which I'm very excited about, but also one that I'm really fascinated in is the upcoming DC film Supergirl with Millie Alcock. By the way, I just think her casting in this is just, I think it's more and more perfect every day. I really, really do. And while I did not love, admittedly, the presentation they gave us at CinemaCon for it, I still think the trailers have been pretty interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing this a lot, especially with Jason Momoa. And on the down low, I'm actually hearing some pretty good things about it. So that's good. Now, there's also another DC film that is currently shooting called Man of Tomorrow, the Superman sequel. And now, according to these reports, it's now been confirmed, something that a number of people suspected, but we didn't know for sure. But Supergirl star Millie Alcock officially joins James Gunn's Man of Tomorrow. Excited for one young woman to embrace the new solo film as well. Okay. I'll tell you why I find this really interesting. Because if you had told me, hey, John, what do you think the chances are that Supergirl will be in Man of Tomorrow? I probably would have said 75%. A good 75 to 80% chance. I'd actually be a little bit surprised, not tremendously surprised, but a little bit surprised if she's not. But my guess is that she'd be in it. That would be my guess. But now them confirming it, this comes right on the heels of the confirmation we had a little bit back that Aaron Pierre, his Green Lantern, John Stewart, is also going to be in Man of Tomorrow. And we already know that Hawkgirl is back. And we know that Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner is back. And we know that Superman is there. And this is more and more, it looks like at any rate, starting to look more and more like an ensemble film. Still definitively
And a
probably-
universe.
And a universe. Still probably definitively a Superman movie. I'm going to go out on a branch and say. But it's making me wonder, is this movie a low-key introduction to Justice League?
Feels like it.
It's starting to feel like it. Not that this is secretly a Justice League movie. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm wondering if this movie, because if you had asked me just a few weeks ago, when do I see James Gunn and Peter Safran getting around to doing a Justice League movie? I would say earliest 2030, maybe 2031. But the more we're starting to see who's lining up to be in this film and which characters they're putting in there, it's starting to make me wonder a little bit if this is going to be their low-key door opening to what will become Justice League.
Foundational.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly that. I'm not saying it is, but when you start adding to the cast Supergirl, and you can say she was in the first film, but that was just at the very end. You're adding Jon Stewart to that. You already have the Justice Gang in there. By the way, Eddie Gathegi, I cannot wait to see him as Mr. Terrific more. I thought that was, I honestly, when they were making Superman, I heard they were putting Mr. Terrific in it. That's the one character. Like, I like that they were doing Guy Gardner. I like that they were putting in Hawkgirl. But I'm like, Mr. Terrific? Really? Same thing I said about Polka Dot Man, and I ended up loving that. And I loved Eddie Gathegi. He's like one of the.
He's another incredible actor.
Oh, he's so good. He's been in everything from like Twilight all the way through.
For All Mankind, buddy.
Oh, that's right. He's the rich CEO dude in For All Mankind.
Of Helios.
So they're putting this together. This is looking more and more like an ensemble film, and I don't know. That's kind of sticking interesting to me. Rob, were you at all surprised to hear that Supergirl is going to be in Man of Tomorrow? And does it tell you anything more than just beyond she's in there? Does it suggest other things, or am I reading a little bit too much into it?
Well, no, I don't think you are. I mean, I think they're building a universe, but they're doing it what the mistake they made prior to this was, making the Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice movie, and Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman were all kind of thrust together. But like with this, we know that Guy Gardner is going to show up in Lanterns along with Hal
he's in
Jordan.
the trailer. Yeah.
He's in the trailer. We've already seen Guy Gardner. So, and what I think they're going to do. Now I have no backup for this, but I would imagine that with all of these different projects, we're going to see different tones for them. Like we got the Superman tone. Right. We know what that is. Guy Gardner's really funny. You know that. I would imagine that his humor, the overt way he was playing, he's still going to be the same character, but we're going to see another side of him in Lanterns. It shows that these characters are versatile depending, because that's what the DC universe would do. You'd get a Batman and the Outsiders fighting the nuclear family, which is ridiculous. And then you would get a Batman in the Justice League that was a lot more serious. But they all existed in the same universe, depending on whose story they were appearing in, which made them more versatile as characters, and they could show up in different kinds of stories, which I think is a really smart move. Now, I'm just speculating here. But to look at Man of Tomorrow, if Brainiac is coming to Earth from an extraterrestrial place, it's going to be a good bet that maybe the Guardians of Oa are involved, that Supergirl would be involved, that maybe we're going to meet somebody, maybe Lobo shows up, because they're building out this universe. So, and I think that, yes, we've already got the prototype for the Justice League with the Justice Gang, but it wouldn't surprise me that after the events of Man of Tomorrow, if they're huge in scope, that they realize the heroes need to work closer together. Like we saw what Luthor was able to do in Superman, that maybe we're slowly building up to the need for a Justice League, that you need to have more firepower than the Justice Gang has already. And I like that idea, because that's kind of what James Gunn was promising, was building the slow build of this. And by the time we see Man of Tomorrow, we will get Lanterns, we will have Clayface, Supergirl, Superman. I don't know what's coming out. What's the next show after Lanterns?
Not sure.
But we got 2 more years, so I'm excited, dude. This is exciting, but I do think they are going to build up to a Justice League.
Yeah. But you'll still need a Batman and a Wonder Woman, obviously.
I mean, yeah, you can't have Justice League. I don't care how creative Safran and Gunn are. You don't do a Justice League movie until you got Wonder Woman and Batman in there. So,
Yeah.
Unless that's the movie that introduces them. Who knows? Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? It's now been confirmed that Supergirl will be in Man of Tomorrow. That's interesting, but the really interesting part of that is, what does it tell us about the movie? Because we've already got the new Green Lantern in there. We're going to have 2 Green Lanterns in there. Is this going to be something a little broader than what we were even expecting? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Oh, actually, you know what? Before we do move on, we got to talk about that terrific Boys finale. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a brand new final Masters of the Universe trailer that should have been their first trailer.
Yeah.
And the final box office projections are in for Mandalorian and Grogu, and it's not great depending on your point of view. We're going to talk about those things and a few things more. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank the sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show, our friends at Pocket Hose. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Pocket Hose. Guys, I'm excited to tell you about the world's #1 expanding garden hose and their brand new product, the Pocket Hose Ballistic. As you guys can imagine, I'm not exactly gentle with my gear. I drag hoses across concrete over the pool, yank them around corners. I even coil and uncoil them all the time to put them in my camper van when I go out on my movie meetups. And generally speaking, a lot of them don't last. But the Pocket Hose Ballistic has been a totally different story for me. It's incredibly durable, super lightweight, and just makes the whole job easier. One of my favorite things is how simple it is to use. You turn the water on, it expands. Turn it off, it shrinks right back down to pocket size. And it's reinforced with a liquid crystal polymer, the same kind of material used in bulletproof vests. Plus, it comes with the pocket pivot, which gives you 360-degree rotation at the spigot so it moves with you instead of fighting against you. And now, for a limited time, when you purchase a new Pocket Hose Ballistic, you'll get a free 360-degree rotating pocket pivot and a free thumb drive nozzle. Just text Campea to 64,000. That's CAMPEA to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. Text Campea to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. And thank you to our friends at Pocket Hose for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys. With that down, let's talk about this, shall we? Last night, I went to go to the RPX Theater in Regal Cinemas in Irvine at the Spectrum Center to watch the finale of The Boys. Not the season finale, the finale of The Boys. And I have loved this show. You know, I'm on record that regardless of how well or not well the finale turned out, I think this is the greatest superhero show of all time. And I don't even think it's relatively close. Now, if Penguin gets 2 or 3 more seasons, we'll have a discussion. But I've just absolutely thought it was phenomenal and loved it. The problem is, many of even my favorite shows don't do what we call sticking the landing. The Boys stuck the landing. Now, you also have to understand my perspective on this. I think in the history of television, I think there have only been 5 or 6 shows that like absolutely crushed the finale. Like, obviously, I think the best finale of all time is Star Trek The Next Generation with All Good Things. I think that's the greatest series finale of all time. I really do. And there have been a couple of other shows that like really just supremely stick it. I don't think the ending of The Boys is in that discussion.
Right.
But I've seen hundreds of shows have bad finales, even the best of shows. Obviously, the most notable of which is Seinfeld, one of the greatest television successes of all time. Absolutely horrendous finale that even the cast today talk about how badly they botched the finale, right? And so I went into it last night thinking, just please don't completely land on your face like Seinfeld. Just end the story. And while it's not a top 5 out of the tens of thousands of shows, I thought they stuck the landing. I thought they did a really good job. I found it very emotionally satisfying. I thought, like, listen, I can't speak for others, but if you look at this, article here, I mean, across the country, the reports coming out of the screenings were all elation. All elation. And I can only speak for the theater I was personally in. So I can't speak all these other ones that this news article is talking about how everybody across the country who watched it in theater seemed to love it. Obviously, that's hyperbole. All I can tell you was my theater. At the Irvine Spectrum in Irvine, California, Regal Cinemas 4DX Theater. My audience that I was in it with was cheering and gasping and applauding and yelling, and it was a fantastic experience. It was a fantastic experience. I thought, and you know what? I was really worried. I still think they should have done, this should have had one more episode. It really should have. Like, I think they did a great job wrapping up everything in a very satisfying way in the one episode. But I think if it had a little bit more room to breathe, like one more episode, it would have been even better. But we were very close in our predictions. Of course, we did our predictions for the finale. We got pretty close.
Yeah.
There were a few notable things we got wrong, but still, I thought the big climactic fight scene, which wasn't even at the end of the episode, I thought was very satisfying. There's a part where one particular character enters the fray and the fight, and my whole audience was like the whole audience went crazy last night. I thought, yeah, and when it ended, they did exactly what we said they would do. So at the end of the episode, we predicted yesterday, there'll be like a little montage thing about showing where all the surviving characters are now and what they're doing. And they certainly did that, and it felt great. Again, top 5 on the level of Next Generation finale? No. But did they nail it? Did they stick the landing? Yes. I think they absolutely did. I would have liked to have seen Queen Maeve make an appearance.
Yeah.
Just for old time's sake. But admittedly, they didn't need for her to be. She hasn't been on the show in years. But other than that, I was, and here's the thing they did. They wrapped up the story that was established in episode 1 of season 1. And by the way, they showed the little previously on The Boys, and they showed that pivotal scene. I can't remember if it was season 2, when Butcher and Homelander are sitting down at a table and they say, let's make this pact, you and me. It comes down to you and me. No quarter given, scorched earth to the death. And they made that pact. And I think that was like season 2. Maybe it was season 3. So they start the show showing that flashback, and like, here we go. And listen, my hair on my arm is standing up. I loved it. I love the conclusion of that. So the best series finale I ever saw? Absolutely not. But I was so worried about them totally falling on its face, like so many shows that I love end up doing. I walked out very happy. The audience, like anybody else who was there with me, by the way, in that theater last night, thank you for making it an even better experience. It was so much fun. And the 4DX of it was an extra little layer to it. But anyway, Rob, you had a chance to watch the finale of The Boys. How did you feel about it?
Like you, I thought it was hugely satisfying. There was a couple of things that got to me. Frenchie, one. And I thought they really handled everything quite well. I mean, Homelander's death.
Let's not go into spoilers.
Oh, is that spoiler? Is that a spoiler thing?
I think so.
I guess it
Although
is.
everybody knew that's what was coming.
But okay, but the thing about it was I thought everything, when you're waiting for stuff, it tends to disappoint in some way.
Oh, yeah.
I thought none of this did that. Like, look, would I have wanted to see more about certain things? Like, I'll say something, and I won't even say I won't. But I thought they really did a great job, because it's a balancing act. You don't want to lose the hard edge and the satire and the disgusting nature of the show and all that. But at the same time, it's always been a character-based show. And they were able to thread that needle. We got the stuff we wanted to see from a visceral standpoint, and then we also got great character moments. And I thought they really did a great job because they had to do a lot of stuff. You know, when I was watching the episode, I was thinking, wow, there's a lot of things this episode of television has to do in terms of points of view, in terms of characters, in terms of resolving stories. And I was surprised at just how deft it was going between all of these different things. And there were certain things that surprised me.
Yeah, I legitimately had a couple of surprises myself. And you know what else they did that I thought was really interesting? Unlike, say, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which kind of felt like the whole reason that movie existed was just to set up spin-offs.
Yeah.
They cracked the door open a little bit for a number of directions this universe could go later without ever making it feel like the whole purpose of this episode is just to set up spin-off. Never felt that, but you could see where they were just introducing little things, opening the door a little bit, where this opens the door for this character and these characters to be used more later on. And I thought that they handled that part really well.
You know, and look, I also think that like Jack Quaid, in my mind, was the star of this show, even though Anthony Starr became a huge breakout, obviously. But this was really Jack Quaid's, it's Huey's story. It began with him, and I was like, where are they going to go?
You know what? Tell me if this is fair to say. It's Homelander and Butcher's story told from the perspective of Huey.
Yes. The way Star Wars is R2 and 3POs, you know. And I was hugely satisfied with where they took Huey. I thought it was really wonderful the way they wrapped it all up, because if there's one thing, that moment when he, you know, at the very beginning of episode 1, he needed justice. He needed something, and I felt like...
By the way, what was the name of the character in episode 1 that died that set up the whole story to begin? What was her name?
I don't remember.
Robin. I'm not going to say why that's important, but if you saw the finale, you know. Anyway.
Because Batman is in this.
Because Batman, confirmed.
No, but it was really good. And,
you know, Batman's in it.
I think Eric Kripke created Heroes, right? The TV series Heroes.
Did he?
Didn't he?
That's something I should know because I love Heroes. At least season 1 of it.
Yeah. Season 1 of Heroes was one of the great, to me, that was the first great. And
good.
Then the show
It's my all-time single favorite season of television is Heroes season 1. And don't talk to me about where it went after that.
Tim King was the creator,
but season 1,
producer. Oh, was it Tim King?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Eric Kripke.
That's right.
Didn't he write on it?
Yeah.
No,
he may have. I'm going to look that up.
I don't know.
Yeah,
or no,
Kripke's
Supernatural. You know what? I'm
season
wrong.
1 of Heroes is perfect. It is. Season 1 of Heroes
But
is perfect.
the reason I was it's Kripke's Supernatural. I'm wrong.
Yes. I thought you were going to say he did like Heroes and Supernatural.
No.
Holy crap.
No.
I didn't realize he did that.
But I want to say that the first season of Heroes was in terms of superheroes it had all these different, it was perfect. But I would say that how I felt about the first season of Heroes, I kind of feel about the entirety of all 5 seasons of The Boys, because some seasons were better than others. But for the most part, as a whole, as an examination into all of these issues and what it's supposed to be, I think all 5 seasons of The Boys really hang together as a terrific story of superheroes and our culture. And it's total, if you watch it from beginning to end. And I would love to go back and watch the whole thing and binge it. Not season by season, but binge the whole thing from episode 1 and see how it works collectively.
You know what's cool to me, watching the finale, I'll just kind of end with this, is that when they did the little previously on The Boys, and they go all the way back, and you realize, like, right from episode 1, Butcher wants to take out Homelander. And then you get to the end, and it's a straight line. Like, they stayed so... Their North Star, their compass over 5 years never wavered.
Right.
This was what the story's about. There's a lot of other things going on around it and everything like that. But yeah, as a guy who has loved this show, I am normally somebody, when I love a show, I usually end up set up for disappointment with the finale. That's what normally happens to me. So as a big fan of this show, I walked out very satisfied. I was really happy with it, and I'm super thrilled the way it turned out. Anyway, guys, question is for you. The Boys is now in the books, and it's kind of sad in some ways. They also, by the way, in the theater, they also showed us a preview for Vought Rising, which did look good, but I'm not big on prequel stuff, you guys know. But who knows, maybe it'll be great. Anyway, whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. A brand new, what they are labeling final trailer for the new He-Man movie, Masters of the Universe, has dropped today. It's out there and it's dropped. Now, for context, before we get into this, I, like many people, have kind of been for why are you doing a He-Man movie? Can this work? And then last year at CinemaCon, they showed us a presentation for it where we went, oh, wait a minute. This looks like it could be pretty good. Then they put out trailers for it. And while I have not hated the trailers, one or two I've liked more than others, I have been, I think it's fair to say, underwhelmed. Even that one trailer that came out that everybody else seemed to like, I was like,
it was generic. It felt generic.
Why do you guys like this trailer? Then they showed us a clip of it at this year's CinemaCon that I thought looked pretty good. So I'm interested in seeing the film. And then the first reactions came out the other day. And beyond the first reaction, I've talked to a couple of people who saw it. And they really liked it. Like, they're saying it's really good. Well, then they put out this final trailer. And, we talked the other day about how it's projecting right now to make $25 to $30 million opening weekend, which is not good for a movie this expensive. Mostly because I don't think the marketing's been good. Well, then they dropped this new trailer today. I have to ask, why in the flippin' hell was this not your first trailer? Why was this trailer not the very first trailer you put out? Because not only was this by far the best trailer they put out, it was an excellent first trailer. It starts off with that, back in the 80s little time thing, and then that guitar, dun dun, like the He-Man thing, bum bum, and then the trailer itself was really good.
Yeah, it had echoes of what they tried to accomplish in the first, and then it just went beyond. Yeah.
I just don't understand when you had this trailer in the holster. Why? Because you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. You know what it reminds me of? Go back to Alita Battle Angel. They put out the first trailer, it sunk the movie. Even though the latter trailers they put out after that actually were pretty good trailers, it was too late. It was too late. Once you lose somebody's interest, it's very, very difficult to get it back. And I just feel like, and that's the thing, this trailer doesn't feel like a third or fourth trailer. It feels like a first trailer, right? And it was terrific. It was engaging. I actually felt myself getting excited. Nothing from that I got from the other trailers. And so I have to ask the studio, why is this trailer only coming out now? And why did you not lead off with this? Because I think we would be having very different discussions about Masters of the Universe if this was the first trailer that came out for it. Anyway, Rob, you had a chance to check out the trailer. What did you think about it?
Well, I too was kind of baffled because after looking at all of the stuff, the behind the scenes stuff that we saw and seeing how great the sets were and everything, I felt the trailers were very generic. They're just like, sword and sorcery, super science in a fantasy context. I think if you were to ask me why was that the case, I think the marketing department of this movie was scared of the tone of the actual film itself. And I will say,
I hope you're right.
I think it surprised me because seeing people like Perry Nemiroff talk about the tone of the movie.
Right.
And then reading how people thought that there's lots of goofy humor, but this is He-Man. This is not Warcraft. This is not Lord of the Rings. This is He-Man. So the tone is really important. And when I heard that, there are two things that happened. The trailer was the second. The first was hearing that piece of score that somebody dropped on X from some, I think, an Italian site. I did not know Brian May is shredding the guitar on this. And look, there are two kinds of people in the world, John. There are people that love Flash Gordon and people that don't. And of course, Queen did the soundtrack for that. And if you buy into Flash Gordon, and I am a Flash Gordon appreciator and lover, that there's a little bit of Flash Gordon. When I heard that piece of music, I'm like, first of all, I love that piece of music. And second of all, I'm like, okay, now I know what the tone of this movie is. The tone of this movie is not some relentlessly serious sword and sorcery epic. It is a crazy combination of that, of fun, of the 80s, of the actual cartoon. And I think that the marketing department was scared of that. They felt if they led with that, it would be too goofy. And I think that they felt it when the trailers came out and did not get, the trailers came out and they were fine, but they didn't get any particular traction. And then they probably had a version. I bet that trailer was probably done first. And the marketing department said, no, we can't. We don't want to. This is a $150 million movie. We don't want to show the cartoon first.
Fire that marketing department.
Somebody, well, they were worried.
But I mean, all you have to do is watch this trailer.
It's just so much more
I know,
engaging.
but that's
Yes.
but we know, but these are kids, man. They're like 30-year-olds. They're in there going, there's some ad agency in there. I don't know. No, but then they finally realize after they see the response and what people are the wild response that people love. That's so goofy and fun and this and that and blah blah blah. It's the 80s and people are like, then they're like, you know what? We can go back to that first trailer.
I told John that when we walked in. I said, I wonder if they decided to release this. They shelved it, and when they got that great response yesterday, they're like, drop it.
And they don't have to hide the fact. That's why the movie's called Masters of the Universe, because they didn't have the guts to call it He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. But now it doesn't matter. You see that, and you know what's really funny? I thought Galazine, I thought he was a little generic in the trailers.
I agree. Yep.
And then when you see it,
by the way, how good is he in Sheep Detectives?
He is so good.
He's so good. For those who don't know,
I didn't realize
He-Man
he's in it.
is in Sheep Detectives, and he's really good in it.
And seeing him like with dark hair and stuff like that. But in this trailer, I'm like, oh, now I get it. So, and by the way, this movie, the trailer looked dope, dude. I'm like, I'm in.
This even had feelings like when you see, I forget this neck guy's name, but it kind of felt like kind of a goofiness that James Gunn would bring to his stuff too, like from the DC characters.
But it's, and I think that, look, and you know what? Trust in Travis. Travis Knight knew
by the way,
assignment.
Thank you to King Daddy Goat, who reminds me that his name is not Nick Galazine. It is Nikki G. Spot. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
Nikki G. Spot.
Nikki G. Spot. Okay.
And I am legitimately, for the first time, I'm excited to see this movie now.
Man, as soon as he hopped on Wind Rider, I'm like, yeah.
Movie. Anyway.
And more Skeletor.
Everyone's
talking about how great Jared Leto's Skeletor is.
Well, we kept hearing that from all the people who saw the film, that his Skeletor is really good.
And I like, he goes, and you're Ram Man?
Yeah.
There's
and you're
Mechanic.
I mean, why didn't they put that in the first trailer?
I was expecting a Fisto joke, but they didn't. Come on.
I'm just trying to find the money shot. That right there, when they ended with that.
Oh.
I was like, that's a great shot.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. Did you have a chance to see the new trailer, the final trailer for Masters of the Universe? And do you have the same question that I have? Why was this not your first trailer? Because I think for some people it's too late. I think there are some people they already lost and they're not going to get them back. But anyway, whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. We got breaking news.
Breaking is right.
Breaking news. This coming to us from the Hollywood Reporter. You know how they're doing that Cliff Booth spinoff movie of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Yeah.
Netflix has got the theatrical bug, baby. They've decided they're going to put this in theaters first in Imax for a 2-week run before dropping it on Netflix. Again, going over to the Hollywood Reporter, as they're saying, Netflix's Cliff Booth movie to get a 2-week IMAX run. The film arrives in IMAX theaters globally Thanksgiving and stars Brad Pitt. It goes on to write this. Cliff Booth is heading to IMAX. Netflix revealed it will give its Cliff Booth movie a 2-week IMAX run globally starting November 25th, the day before Thanksgiving. It will then arrive on the streaming service on December 23rd. David Fincher directs the movie from a script from Quentin Tarantino and is a continuation of Brad Pitt's Oscar-winning Once Upon a Time in Hollywood stuntman character. Though the film has been referred to as The Adventures of Cliff Booth, it does not yet have an official title. All right. Couple things I'll throw out there. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is my second least favorite Quentin Tarantino movie. My least favorite of his is Death Proof, which I straight up think was terrible. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, yeah, whatever. I don't actively dislike it, but
the more you watch it, the better it gets.
But you know what? Yes, I saw it a second time, and I liked it more the second time. I will say this though: the parts of the movie that I really like. Like, there's some really great stuff in there, some whatever. But we knew they were making this. The biggest thing to me in all this, though, is what I've been telling people for a while, and we've seen some things happen in the last couple of weeks that have proved it. Netflix and Ted Sarandos have caught the theatrical bug. The whole process they went through with Warner Brothers made it clear that they see that the future of Netflix is not theaters, but involves theaters. And we've been seeing more and more, like with the announcement that, okay, they decided that the, not Lion Witch in the Wardrobe, but the grander
Narnia.
series, the Narnia franchise, it's going to get a full theatrical run.
Yeah.
Full theatrical run.
Magician's Nephew or whatever they're leading with.
And now they're saying, now this is going to go to theaters. They are exploring meetings with potential. There's word that they may be looking to develop their own distribution arm, which that is not easy to do. That takes decades.
They also purchased that studio lot in Hollywood.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
They have purchased a new studio lot, all that kind of stuff.
And look at Amazon. They're killing it.
Amazon is absolutely
their dedication to theatrical this year. I mean, they've released a movie pretty much every month.
But what really did you see the initial VOD numbers on Project Hail Mary? Very impressive.
Very impressive.
And why? Because it went to theaters first.
Yeah. And it's still pulling $1 million a day.
Yep. And Netflix is seeing that and say, yeah, we got to be a part of that. At any rate, Rob, so I think it's a big deal that the Cliff Booth movie is coming to theaters. But the bigger part to me is like, this is yet another sign that Netflix is more and more gradually, bit by bit, moving towards that. Are you surprised to hear about this? Not surprised? Good move, bad move? What do you think?
I think it's a terrific move. And especially, I mean, you've got a David Fincher movie written by Quentin Tarantino. If that doesn't scream theatrical, I don't know what does. And I'm tired of seeing David Fincher movies on Netflix.
Yeah.
It's nice to see them when they get there.
Sure.
But I mean, and I wonder if this movie is going to wind up being called Twice Upon a Time in Hollywood, because that might be fun. But
I think it'll end up just being called Cliff Booth.
Yeah, probably. But I do think that it's a great move. Like we've said, how many more studies do you have to have when a movie does well theatrically? It's going to do well streaming. And if you look at, I mean, Mercy wasn't very good. I liked Crime 101, and I liked, I haven't seen Is God Is yet, but it's not doing that well, but I really want to see it. Project Hail Mary was March. April, I don't think they had anything, but Is God Is May. And then, we're getting Masters of the Universe. That's all MGM. That's all Amazon for the first 5 months of the year, 6 months of the year. That's a pretty good slate. And I would love to see Amazon do it. And it sounds like, okay, we got Narnia coming out. Doesn't Narnia come out around Thanksgiving as well?
Look that up.
Yeah, but
So-
it's I think a different year.
Oh, is it 2027?
I could be wrong.
Yeah, it probably is. But so they're staking their claim for the Thanksgiving holiday. That's pretty great. And I love to see that. I mean, I want to see more Netflix.
February
stuff.
27.
Yeah. Oh, February.
They moved it. Yeah, they moved it.
So there you go. So you've got November, February. That's 4 months. You know what? And they're going to see. They're going to see how those movies do theatrically, and I would imagine they're both going to do very, very well. And they'll be like, why have we been missing the boat? But then again, John, as you point out, a lot of Netflix movies weren't good enough to be in theaters. So they're upping their game with their talent. So that's good too.
Well, it's not that, it's like almost none of Netflix, 1% of Netflix movies are good enough to put in theaters. I also wonder how big could this actually be in theaters, because it's a spin-off of the supporting character from a movie that only made one Black Adam at the box office. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood didn't even make $400 million. I think it was like 392, 393, something like that. So how will a spin-off of the second character do in theaters? I'm not sure. I hope really well, because that'll further keep Netflix going more and more theatrical, but we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The Cliff Booth movie with with the follow-up character from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood starring Brad Pitt is now going to get a 2-week IMAX run before it hits Netflix. Does that surprise you? Good move, bad move, whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. That down, let's move on to this. Well, we've talked a lot about Mandalorian and Grogu. Of course, you have to when it's a new Star Wars movie, the first Star Wars movie coming to movie theaters in almost 7 years. And it's based on a pretty popular, pretty successful Disney Plus series. Let's not talk about season 3, which was not so good and not so great. The initial reactions were pretty good to mixed. The full reviews came out, which are pretty good to mix. I think the last I checked, it's sitting at a 62% on Rotten Tomato, which is a positive score. People who like it don't seem to love it. The people who don't like it don't seem to outright hate it. So it's kind of in the middle there. We also talked a few weeks ago about the fact that the long-term box office projections said it ran the risk of possibly becoming the lowest opening weekend for any Star Wars movie of the Disney era. And now, just days away from its release, I'm going to go see it tomorrow. The final box office projections are in, and this is according to Deadline. They're saying it's going to come in at $80 million. Now, just to have some perspective here, most movies would love to have an $80 million opening weekend. There haven't been a lot of movies that have had over an $80 million weekend all year so far. That's a good number. But you also have to keep in mind this piece of context, that the lowest opening weekend from any Star Wars movie of the Disney era is Solo: A Star Wars Story. That ended up having, I believe, an $85 million opening weekend. And should the Mandalorian and Grogu come in at this number, at $80 million, it will officially make it the lowest grossing one they've ever had. Now look, I don't know that I've ever said they should never have done a Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Maybe I have said that, I'm not sure, but here I am the day before it comes out. I don't know that I'd say today that they should never make a Mandalorian movie. I mean, after all, it's pretty successful television show other than third one. The big thing to me, the stickler has been, how can you make this the first re-entry into the movie theaters in almost 7 years? I almost feel like they should have really just pushed this project back until after Starfighter comes out. Because if this thing comes out and it's getting, let's call them modest. It's getting modest reviews, modest reactions, and maybe it has a modest box office. Does that not hinder at least a little bit the momentum you're trying to build up to Starfighter? Wouldn't you want to give Starfighter a better fighting chance than to put out a modestly well-received, modest resulting Star Wars movie? Because does this Mandalorian and Grogu, which by the way, of that $80 million, I am probably going to be personally responsible for $20 million of that, because we're doing 18 screenings of it in the next week and a half for movie meetups. By the way, looking forward to seeing all you guys in Columbus, New York, Boston, and Toronto soon. So yeah, look, not surprised to hear this. I'm sure the reactions and the initial reviews that have now come out are not helping the numbers. It's probably brought the numbers down a little bit. Because remember, they were also saying in those early projections, it could be as high as 95 million. But it sounds like the excitement is tempered. It's come down a bit. I really liked, for the record, I really liked the first 17 minutes. They showed us the first 17 minutes of it at CinemaCon, and I really enjoyed it. It wasn't the best thing I saw at CinemaCon, but I thought it was quite good. So I don't know. We'll see about this. Rob, do you think it'll hit that $80 million mark? Do you think that's underestimating how much it makes? And is it a big deal if it ends up being the lowest opening weekend of the Disney era for a Star Wars film?
First of all, to me, this is a glorified TV movie. And I don't think it's fair that we qualify it or quantify it in the same breath as every other previous Star Wars movie. Because this really is, it's TV characters It's made with a television mindset. I mean, I understand that they wanted to make it for the big screen or whatever, but it's certainly not giving us, if the story was different, it's episodic. It looks to me like they took a number, look, I haven't seen it, but judging from what people have been saying about this film, it looks like they took developing scripts, 3 or 4 of them, and put them together as one movie. And I'm like, I get it. That's what you do. You know, you spend a lot of money developing scripts, and why not? You already have this material. You string it all together. John Favreau, great. Why not do it? I think it's a mistake. I think it's always been a mistake to do this movie. I think it diminished the overall brand, because what you've done now is you've muddied the waters. I didn't like when Clone Wars came out, the animated Clone Wars. Clone Wars hadn't debuted.
The series or the movie?
The movie.
Yeah, that was terrible.
The movie, yeah. And that was they were trying to muddling what was a TV show and putting it out, and I thought that was a mistake too. I think that what this has done is it has muddied the water of Star Wars as a theatrical brand. I just don't think it and judging from what we've heard from everybody, maybe I'll just love it. But even when we watched the first 17 minutes at CinemaCon, I thought they were good. You know, they were fine. But to me, it didn't have the scope. It didn't have the feel of a theatrical, the origins. And maybe I'm just bringing my own prejudices into it. But I just don't think that this movie is of that caliber, because it is a TV show. I mean, even the character of Grogu, to me, on the big screen, looks like just... Yoda never looked like a puppet to me. Not in Empire and Jedi. Not until The Phantom Menace did Yoda look like the coloring or whatever, the way it was shot, video, whatever. I mean, it was a shot video in Phantom Menace, but this just doesn't have a feature film feel to me. And I think it's a mistake, and they'll be lucky to make $80 million.
By the way, I saw somebody say this earlier, and I'm not saying I necessarily agree, but I do think it's worth bringing up. If this movie is as modest as we think, you know who wrote this movie? John Favreau and Dave Filoni wrote it. And, you know, when they announced that Dave Filoni, who has had now years of experience in the executive offices, I thought maybe now was the right time to promote him to the co-CEO role of Lucasfilm. But his live action track record to me is iffy. I did not like Ahsoka at all. I hope season 2 will be better, because I really like Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. We're having to go into Mandalorian Grogu with tempered expectations. And my fear is, and it might be unjustified at this point. All right. I'm totally keeping an open mind, but I'm just saying it's at least worth bringing up that, you know, Dave Filoni and John Favreau wrote this. And if these are kind of going to be the guys behind the creative controls of where we're going from here, at this point, is that concerning? I don't know. And listen, I might come out of Mandalorian and Grogu tomorrow going, I don't know what the hell the rest of you are smoking. That was great. And maybe I will. Maybe I'll love it and go, yes, the future is bright. But for now, from the perspective of having not seen the movie, is this dangerous foreboding from what might be the future of Lucasfilm? I don't know. It might be way too early to say something like that, though.
But I just still think it's a TV show that was put on the big screen, but it wasn't put on the big screen with a big screen mentality. It still has the TV show. They should have been able to take these characters and move them into a theatrical kind of a film. It's never felt theatrical to me. It's never felt like a movie.
They basically came out saying the 4th season got scrapped.
Right.
We had this. This is basically, we still wanted to put it out to audience. So producers sort of in the background murmured that this was just a TV show going out, but they wanted to like put it out for audiences. But
it could have been a Disney Plus premiere.
I think we asked this question before, but I want to ask it again. I wonder, I don't have an answer for this. I'm just saying, I wonder how different would the excitement level, the buzz level, the anticipation level, the event feeling of it level be if Mandalorian season 3 didn't exist?
So you're coming right off of Skywalker.
We get the end of Mandalorian season 2. The last thing we had was Luke coming and taking Grogu away.
Yeah.
And we never get that subpar season 3.
Oh, I think it's night and day.
Yeah, like where's the excitement level then? Maybe it's a totally different game at that point.
Well, I just think that this, the episodic nature of this movie, the fact that you have these different quests, and somebody said probably astutely, the whole movie feels like a side quest. This needed a movie storyline, one big epic story, not a story that has 5 or 6 different big vignettes within it. You needed to give us a movie storyline,
which I can't say they haven't because I haven't seen the movie yet. Like
I'm just going by the early reviews and what people are saying, but something big, something big. The scope of the story needed to be something we haven't seen before.
Techniques in the live chat saying Mandalorian, the DLC, the downloadable. That's actually shockingly accurate. To what this feels
in a way, it really is.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? They're now saying, as we're heading into the opening of Mandalorian, which opens in theaters everywhere tomorrow, is now targeting $80 million. Do you think it'll be lower than that? Maybe you think it'll come in a lot higher than that. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, and that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who joined us in the live chat. There are thousands of you guys in there talking amongst yourselves. Love the comments you guys have been making. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of this. I'm actually leaving. A couple hours. I'm going to be on the road. We head out for the next leg of the movie meetup tour. Again, we're hitting Columbus, New York, Boston, Toronto, all sold out. Other than Toronto, which the tickets have not gone on sale for that yet. I will keep you guys abreast of that once they do, and we get a showtime for Toronto.
Do you know how many miles you're going to cover? Did you look it up?
I gotta guess it's going to be 5,000 miles. Maybe. How far is it from here to
Toronto? It's like 3,000 miles across.
Probably about 6,000 miles then. 6,200. A lot of driving to do over the next little bit, but I will be excited to get on the road. I'm looking forward to getting out there and, of course, doing the shows from the road as well. I want to thank, of course, our technical producer, Jonathan Voico.
See you guys later.
Writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer-Burnett.
Mañana.
My name's John Campea, guys. Thanks so much for being here. We appreciate you all so much. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.